how would you kind of summarize the changes from 6 years ago to now?
Well, I'm almost 50, but I'm operating in probably the high single-digit percentiles of people who are 50. My standards for where I want to be include being able to walk in your office right now, walk up to that pull-up bar and hit 10 on demand, cold.
Yeah.
Right? That's just a relative standard. Or I do jiu-jitsu with guys that are less than half my age, way more athletic, way more flexible, way faster, but I'm just multiples higher in strength than they are. And I receive comments on that all the time. And in really uncomfortable, compromised positions, people will ask me, like, am I going to let go or something? It's like, no, you got to kind of work through this, right? I see it in that. In terms of my body composition, I went from that 22% to in June of 2023, it was my leanest, and I was 13% or less, and full six pack, the V's near the hips.
The money makers.
Money makers, yeah, money makers. And then I had a couple ankle injuries last year at the end of the year that really took me off the cardio game. And I crept back up to, let's say, 16 or 17%, which is, again, I know that because I do DEXA scans, right? And so then it was like, oh, now that you pass these injuries, you got to be peeling that off. And the in-body today here was at 13%. Okay. Right? So again, almost 50 years old, very high levels of strength, sub 15% body fat. And I don't feel like I'm at all even anywhere near the potential I can cultivate.
I remember the day when you came in, that 13% body fat day when you came in, and you like lift up your shirt. You're like, check this out. Like 13%. I'm like,
And as I sit here with you today, I'm roughly 175 pounds. If I would focus on leaning out a little bit and would get down to, let's say, 170 while maintaining all my muscle mass, I'd probably be in the 10 or 11% range. Yeah. And that's just unheard of, right? Yeah. I mean, it can happen because I'm doing it. Sure. But that you were talking about a range of people who do long distance running, long distance swimming, and
athletes.
I know you call me that sometimes, but I don't consider myself that. I just consider that wanting to live this full life. And I think that part of now what drives me now is I just have a different sense about, like, and again, it's just very personal and very subjective, not anything I'd necessarily expect from other people, but I feel like it's really incumbent on men to be prepared, right? Like, classically, we think about provider, protector type relationship dynamics. We as a society generally don't have much that we're wanting for. We have an excess available for calories. We have an excess available for entertainment. We have an excess available for all these things. Not for everybody in our society, but for most. And so for me, it's like one of the things that drives me is like, how do I continue to be more capable all the time for the unexpected? If I break down the side of the road, how do I put my lady on my shoulder and go for a mile, right? Or something happens on these mean streets and I have to drag you down the street for a few blocks. I want to be able to do those sorts of things. And I'm inspired by some acquaintances I have in California. These guys are in their 70s and 80s, and they walk into the barbell gym in jeans and work boots, newspaper in hand, don't warm up, and put on lots of weight on the leg press or the barbell, and they're leg pressing 500 pounds cold while reading a newspaper between sets and talking to me. These are kind of some life goals. It's like, what can you do to do that? Because strength, hip strength, hand strength, grip strength is so highly correlated to longevity and quality of life. And I think about the work that you do, like, you didn't have to do it with me, but I do encourage people that are older, why don't you set some goals? Yeah. And the goals could be, I want to hang out with my kids. Yeah. Or I want to be able to carry groceries in my house. Yeah. Which could be different than carry groceries in my house up a flight of stairs. Yeah. Which could be different than if the bag is 20 pounds versus 30 pounds. And I think, people putting some real thought into the practical things they want to do and then going after it for months or years is the thing.
I think you kind of hit a wall, right, with your training. You were getting up there, gaining, and there was this one, like, very memorable day you came in. You're like, I just can't get any mass up here in my chest, right? And I can't get past this PR. I think it was like a deadlift or something, right? And a lot of that conversation led to maybe it's time to look into hormones, right? So tell me how you were feeling and what made you, at some point you like kind of just clicked and you like, it's time to do this. How did you get there?
This is not a humorous thing, but it really was how I felt for 20 plus years is better living through chemistry.
Uh-huh.
Right? And a lot of times that would have been an excuse. Like, I can live this wild lifestyle and just improve it with a pharmaceutical or whatever. But as I had more clarity in mind, I started to think about, like, we now, at least in my case, I have a good income, I have a stable life. And so it's like, we have so much more information available. And it's not just the internet in general, but like now we have healthcare providers have the ability to expand their knowledge through broad networks around the world, and there's people all over the world that can educate you about what this means. That also is available to me as a lay consumer, right? And so I was realizing, well, there's a lot going on out here in the training communities around peptides, around hormones. It's not about T clinics. You can really have specialty providers that are really accustomed to you. I've had this long relationship with you at Balance Flow around really hyper-personalized care programs. And I had inherent trust in you for you and your team for so many years that I knew that this wasn't going to be a fly-by-night kind of thing. It wasn't something you were experimenting with. And so, again, I had hit that wall both in terms of body composition and probably strength. And then third was the aesthetic. And so as we started talking about it, and as I started to do the hormone optimization with you, it actually started with thyroid optimization prior to testosterone optimization. So while we're here to talk about testosterone, it's really, as you know, this whole package of lots of different hormones can come together to deliver the results that you want. Started to see some results from the early optimization. I had a massive improvement in body composition just from the thyroid optimization. It really took off.
At your wall or plateau, you were like 22%?
I got into the high teens on my own through 2022, and especially through the sabbatical and being really diligent with nutrition. But yeah, I was probably in the, let's say, 17% range, and while having great nutrition control and sleep control. So one of the early effects I saw from both thyroid optimization and testosterone optimization was an improvement in body composition. And in the first year, I lost a considerable amount of body fat, which in my case is almost all held in the stomach and low back. And at the same time, for, let's say, a year, a very significant increase in lean mass. I want to say that the first year increase in lean mass was something like 12 pounds.
Wow.
Right. So for a guy who was already training and training heavy under a trainer who trains pro athletes, I was getting plenty of stimulus, right? But the conditions inside the body just weren't optimized to do what I wanted to do. The nutrition was pretty optimized, but the foundational inner state.
I think you gained more muscle than me in the first year then.
I look back now that one of the things I could have done differently, and learning experience is like, could I have really been more diligent around the training program in the first year? And would it have produced 15 or 18 pounds? Probably. But at the same time, I'm having this conversation here with you today without having experienced a major injury. Right? And that is very uncommon for people, especially with older joints and bros wanting to bro out, able to have this success while avoiding injury, right? And that's kind of rule one, is avoid the injury so that you can stay on the path.
You're more consistent, you're just killing it on the regular. So it's awesome. Some people talk about like wellness and like sense of well-being and like have you felt any benefits on like that end, like more like kind of emotional and like kind of outlook and like perspective? Have you seen any of that?
I have. So in the short term, when I first started the testosterone aspects of the therapy, there was some emotional dysregulation, which I think is common, right? Like you can perhaps feel more emotional, things that were just been commonplace, whatever, can give rise to stronger reactions. Maybe there's a bit of an anger reaction, maybe there's a bit of sadness reaction. That quickly passed and quickly waned. And now, and this has been the case for probably 18 months, I feel like I have very noticeable increases in mental clarity, in rapid decision making, not impulsive either, but real fact-based combined with your morals and ethics to make improved and quicker decisions. I think my emotions are incredibly stable. And again, this is a lot coming together, the hormones, the strength training, the difficult situations, all the things. But I think about the benefits that I really appreciate about hormone optimization is these emotional, spiritual, perhaps metaphysical aspects, right? Clarity of thinking, rapid decision making, confidence is very high. Of course, there's almost everyone will experience, changes and increases in libido, which then have emotional connections to your partner and things. So again, I don't want to use this platitude of flywheel, but there's quite a bit of a flywheel effect. As you get one thing going and you're making progress, all of a sudden you're going faster. Other things and the flywheel keeps going faster and faster. And I'll say people, I think, sometimes think, well, hormone optimization, that's just a fancy way to say steroids, right? And I'm concerned about roid rage. I'm concerned about anger. I'm concerned about what all these. I didn't experience any of that. And
different thing.
And
not the same things.
And my close friends, some of which are also your patients, we talk about this all the time. And because we're all experiencing these really positive effects across our professional relationships, across our personal relationships, across our intimate relationships. And even just, I think the most important relationship is the relationship you have with yourself. And there's, again, all those types of things add up to or can contribute to, I won't say better, but just more holistic sense of self. If you're confident, it's really hard to be confident in one aspect of your life and not have that carry over to a lot of other aspects.
It's hard to explain, right? Because I try to explain that aspect to people. I think you did it really well. That sense of well-being, like that confidence. That's like you're just confident, right? The decision making is clear. Like you know what to do, right? And you're confident about it. It's just like it just comes, right? It's just so weird.
And I would say it's not a braggadocio or false confidence.
Right.
It's probably a more integrated sense of confidence that. And so again, I guess put a fine point on it. I don't feel like my confidence is coming from this better living through chemistry. It's not coming from this one well optimization. It's coming from that confidence being applied in all aspects of life and then being integrated to all aspects of life. Yeah, and for me, a lot of times too, I'd say that you know me for a lot of years. So my aggressiveness or my black and white thinking, this false confidence that I'm right, a lot of that's reduced too. So while my decision making, I think, is more clear, definitely more quicker, I think it's more integrated with emotional awareness of others, emotional awareness of myself. So it's not an overly aggressive confidence in any state.
Last question, right? So I know libido went up. Have you noticed how that changes?
There's just some of the emotional dysregulation. People need to I think really pay attention to their libido, expect that there's going to be some overdrive going on. Work really closely with your provider to optimize, because you're not just optimizing blood levels, you're optimizing for life. And so if you're overly tuned up and you just have this raging libido all the time, that could result in not being optimized in parts of life.
That's all you're thinking about.
And again, I think for different people, as I talk about these with these same buddies, some people are strong, classic Italian men, and all the things that come with that, right? And the machismo that comes with that. And then other people are really intellectual, and so maybe the libido is not the thing they're getting at this. But I feel that it has
good
extremely positive effects around all things sex and quality, frequency, meaningfulness, all of that.
You're a good guy.